Welcome. It is Verdict with Senator Ted Cruz. Ben Ferguson with you as well. Senator, you had one heck of a weekend as I was carrying 100 pounds of golf equipment in Orlando, Florida for 7 hours and 15 minutes. If anyone was counting on how long that round lasted, you were at the World Cup living it up with your. By the way, I just want to be clear. Your daughter picked a better sport watching World Cup than mine carrying a bag in the sun. Congratulations, you won on that one.
Okay, I need to ask, what the hell was 100 pounds? Is your son like playing golf with anvils? Like how exactly does that work?
So this is what is in the bag. It's all the stuff. The ball is normal. That's all there, right? Then you have the push cart, but then you have like 7 or 8 bottles of water, plus enough to eat when you're missing a meal to keep them keep eating because you're out there so long. And when you put all that together with the rain gear and the umbrellas and the ice and the food, it is literally 100 and something pounds. I kid you not.
So is there some rule in like kids golf that you can't have a golf cart?
You're not allowed to. At World Championships, the caddy and the player must walk the entire 18 holes.
Just because there's like some mean jerk in charge of the whole thing? Like why exactly?
So it's very interesting. Your spectators can use a cart. When you get there, it is straight up like if you want to say you're a world champion, you're going to walk the whole thing, and there will be no one to help you. And if you want to quit, you can quit, but the strongest survive. It was a strongest survive scenario. So that's how it works. So if you're ever bored and you want a caddy, it's a great workout, I assure you.
All right, so Ben, I can give you the precise odds of that. That would be 0.00%. I will not be caddying. I will cheer you on. By the way,
I like it.
How did Bradley do?
So he came in. He played 10 and unders in the Under Armour Worlds, and so he got the invite. So we did it. He's 9, so he's one of the youngest kids. He came in 43rd in the world, which was awesome for him.
Wow,
so
that's awesome. And by the way, the difference between 9 and 10 is big. I mean, like at this age, a year is massive.
It's massive. So our goal was to try to make it in the top 50 in the world. Because there's 109 kids that got in, and he came in 43rd. So I was like, dude, now next year you get to come back. You automatically will get to come back, and next year you'll play the same course, the same
does the
distances.
top 50 get in automatically?
Yeah. So he'll get in automatically.
That's the cutoff.
That's the cutoff. So that was the best part. So he is back, and I told him, and he was disappointed. He wanted to be in the top 20. And it was these other kids. Some of them had like 2-year graduating years. They have your where you're from.
All right. So the other kids, the kids that won, is it their drive? Do they hit the ball further?
Yeah,
is it their short game or is their putting? Like where is the differential?
It's a mature. You can see the maturity. So definitely, just how far they hit the ball is way. Like in a year, Bradley will probably hit the ball another 25 to 35 yards further minimum off the tee. Could be as much as 50. And so when you're hitting that much farther, you're now hitting 8 irons and pitching wedges and 9 irons in the green. Whereas then if you're back, you're hitting in, not near as accurate of shots. You're hitting 5 irons or hybrids in, and it's all the difference in the world. So
since I don't play golf, everything you said there sounded like the teacher on Charlie Brown. Wah, 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 wah. Like some different clubs and the volley goes into the holy.
You know what I learned? By the way, do you want to know what I learned on this adventure with so you got to get your kid to drink enough water to survive. Bradley hates energy drinks. He does not like anything flavored. There are electrolyte gummies, folks. I have found them. They work, and he would eat the gummies all day. So there's your tip. If you got a kid that doesn't like Gatorade.
What I just heard is that Ben is feeding his son marijuana gummies.
Yeah, that's what you heard from Colorado, right? Yeah, and Mile High gummies.
And I gotta say, as a 9-year-old, he's the most mellow golf player you've ever seen. Yeah, man. The course looks great.
It was fun. We met. By the way, we had Verdict listeners there. It was nice.
You told me parents. That you had several that are like, hey, I listened to the pod.
Yeah, it was quite fun. They're like, when's Ted coming out? Somebody yelled that across the fairway during the practice round. I don't know who they were. They were older kids and a dad, and he yelled, he's like, where's Ted at? And I was like, I don't know. And then we just kept walking and laughed.
I was in New York City this weekend, and I was sitting at like a hotel bar late at night, and I had a whole family came up, and they said, we love Verdict. We listen to it all the time. And I was like, awesome.
Now, you got to go to the World Cup this weekend, which is awesome. I want to hear all about that. Before we do that, I do want to talk to you real quick about an amazing company that is fighting for our values each and every day. You've heard me talk about it for years. It's Patriot Mobile. And if you've got a cell phone, well, you need to get involved in what they're doing. By the way, if it feels like our country finally has momentum again, with our leaders fighting to restore common sense and America first, we've seen how this works before. We get comfortable as conservatives, then the left starts taking back ground inch by inch, and that is something we cannot let happen in these midterm elections. America needs every one of us in the fight, and a big part of that means supporting companies like Patriot Mobile that actually stand for our values, and that's why I'm proud to partner with them. Patriot Mobile not only gives you premium priority nationwide service on any of the 3 major networks, but they also give you something else: unlimited data plans, mobile hotspots, international roaming, and then their team is 100% U.S.-based customer support. Switching has never been easier. You can keep your same phone you have right now in your hand. You can keep your same number, and you can activate over the phone in just minutes. Now, this is where the magic happens. Patriot Mobile gives millions of dollars in donations every year to organizations that are fighting for our faith, our family, our freedoms, and unborn children in this country. So get a free month. You can try it on me. Go to patriotmobile.com/verdict or 972-PATRIOT. And if you use the promo code verdict, you'll get that free month of service. patriotmobile.com/verdict. Make a difference with every call you make. Or call them right now, 972-PATRIOT, and make that switch in minutes. All right, Senator, so let's talk about, you got not only like 2 cool things. One, you got to go to the World Cup. But 2, you got to take one of your daughters with you, which is like that's like core memories you got to make.
Yeah. So look, Sunday I went to the World Cup finals. That they were in New York, actually New Jersey. It was kind of funny. It was in New Jersey, but the branding was all New York/New Jersey. I felt bad for New Jersey because we weren't actually in New York, but somehow New York got top billing.
It's where everybody stayed that came to the game. That's the reality, right? You stay in New York City, then you go over to New Jersey, and then you get out of there as fast as you can.
So it was really fun, and I had 2 tickets, so Heidi and I were going to go. And then I asked my 2 girls, Caroline and Katherine, hey, do y'all want to go to the World Cup? They both wanted to go. But my youngest daughter, Katherine, you know both our girls, she's 15. Yep. And Katherine and I, we do sporting events, like going back. All right, let me tell some history on this. Going back to 2017. 2017, the World Series between Houston Astros and the Dodgers. So I was blessed. I went to game 3, 4, and 5 of the World Series. Game 3, I took my dad. I mean, what a great chance. Take your dad to a World Series. That's just really cool.
That's incredible.
Game 4, I took Heidi. Total and complete waste. I adore my wife.
By the way, she would say that, right? She would agree with you?
She's my best friend in the world. But in like the 3rd inning, she turned to me and said, did they score a touchdown? and I said, I am offended that you are in this stadium taking a seat that should be taken by a real baseball fan. All right, so game 5. I invite initially my daughter Caroline. And Caroline was 9 at the time, and I adore Caroline. She is an incredible kid. She is brilliant, but she is, God help her, just like her dad. She is a pain in the ass, and I say that I am too. I love it, but I say, hey, sweetheart, do you want to go to the World Series? And she said, sure, but she said, but I'm going to root for the Dodgers, and
you're look, like, why? Oh wait, I know the answer to this. Keep going. Yeah.
So Heidi is a native Californian, and so she grew up in California rooting for the Dodgers. But secondly, Caroline, just at 9 and at 18 today, just sort of likes to screw with her dad. Like she knew that would piss me off, so she liked that answer. And my response to Caroline said, sweetheart, I love you, but I'll be damned if I'm going to take you to the game if you're going to root for the Dodgers. You can root for anyone you want, but I ain't taking you.
Yeah,
and
right.
Katherine, it was the day after her 7th birthday, and she looks up with those big brown eyes. She blinks twice, and she goes, Daddy, I'll root for the Astros. And I said, sold.
Sold. And the smartest answer of her life.
So I took Katherine, And if you remember Game 5 of the 2017 World Series, that's the game that went to 1:30 in the morning. It was an unbelievable game.
Oh, yeah.
And Katherine and I are jumping, we're hugging. And I told her, it was a day after she turned 7. And I said, sweetheart, you don't really appreciate this now. But you are going to tell your grandkids you were at this game. You've just witnessed the greatest game in the history of the Houston Astros. It was amazing. And what that started is a tradition. Look, the Astros won, made it to the next 7 ALCSs.
Yep.
We made it to 4 World Series.
That'll never. I don't know if it'll ever happen again.
Okay. We made it to 4 World Series and we won 2. And I told Katherine, I said, you don't understand. This doesn't happen. This is like a freakish, perfect storm. And that Game 5 of the 2017 World Series started a tradition where Katherine and I have gone to almost every single home playoff game of the Astros for the last 8 years. And it's just what she and I do. We don't make it to a lot of regular season games because there's so many of them and it's hard. But you get to playoff time, and I would look. Yeah, and listen, we're often in D.C. I'm in session, and during the playoffs, I'll get on a plane, I'll fly home, I'll take her to the game. I'll go to sleep. I'll wake up at 4 a.m, get on a plane at the crack of dawn, and come back to D.C. And I'll just do that. And so I feel immensely grateful. Like from age 7 to age 15, I've been able to go to, I don't know, 40 playoff games with Katherine. I mean, it has been the daddy-daughter tradition. So on the World Cup, I said, okay, we got tickets to the finals. And Heidi wanted to go. She's like, all right, this sounds like fun. And Caroline wanted to go, actually, but then Katherine really, really wanted to go. And I'm going to give Heidi props. She said, you know what? I'd like to be there, but Katherine really wants to go. And she also said, look, she's 15. In a couple of years, she's going to go off to college. She's going to be gone. This is a daddy-daughter moment. So I took Katherine. We had a blast. The game, did you watch the game?
It was good. Yeah, I watched it, yeah.
It was a really good game. Now listen, I'm not going to pretend that I'm a huge soccer fan. I haven't watched a bunch of World Cup games. You're a soccer fan every 4 years. That's like, and there's nothing wrong with that. Like, I could care less. World Cup happens. Okay, I care. And by the way, this World Cup, A, we're hosting, but B, I loved cheering on the American team. And it was really fun. I loved seeing these foreigners, these Europeans coming to America, these Japanese coming to America, and falling in love with our country. That was the patriotic aspect. Did you follow Freddie online?
Oh, yeah. I think the whole world did if you were online because it was the best part of the whole thing.
Look, Freddie is this German tourist who came to go to the games. And he drove from like Louisiana to Arkansas to Texas, and he tweeted about it, and like he encountered a Buc-ee's, and he's like, "Oh my God, what is this thing?" And it was the most beautiful. I've never met Freddie. I don't know the guy. I don't imagine I'll ever meet him, but I loved his genuine love for America and watching. There's another great thing that I had fun on Twitter retweeting these things. There was another great moment when the team from Norway landed at DFW, and there were like 20 Fort Worth cops that were sitting on the tarmac, and as the team came down, they were all doing the row. And it was so cool, like these Fort Worth police officers welcoming the Norway team. That was an amazing thing. So I've enjoyed cheering on the Americans in the World Cup. And then in the final, you know, it's interesting. I had a bunch of people ask, all right, who are you rooting for? And I'll admit I was a little conflicted. Really? Look, Argentina, yes, and I'll tell you why. Argentina.
I want to know because
who are you rooting
Spain
for?
All the way, Spain. No,
okay.
Because I lived there in the summer in Alicante and fell in love with the people there, and I was like, this is amazing.
So here's why I was conflicted. Argentina. Messi is one of the greatest soccer players to ever live. And I just love excellence. It's sort of like Michael Jordan, like watching someone. Messi is, by any measure, you could argue who the top one is, but Messi's in the top 5. Any way you look at it, he's in the top 5. And so I like excellence, but I actually made the decision going into the game, I'm going to root for Spain. And the reason is my dad, as you know, was born in Cuba, but my grandfather, my abuelo, was born in the Canary Islands, which is part of Spain. The Canary Islands, my grandfather was born in the Canary Islands, and then he came to Cuba. He was born in 1900. He came to Cuba in 1901. And so my family, going back before, is Spanish in tradition. So I said, all right, I'm gonna root for Spain. But I didn't feel strongly. It was just sort of like, all right, who you want to root for? I guess, okay, since my family has origins in Spain, let's root for Spain. I got to say the game. Number one, Spain dominated the game. And I'm not a... It was, I mean,
from their defense to their offense to everything in between, they were a fine-oiled machine. And you could tell they got their mojo going and actually improved during the tournament.
Yes.
Not all teams did that, by the way. Like, you had some spotty games for some of the teams or spotty halves. That they just kept getting better.
Well, and look, as I said, I'm not a big soccer fan. I don't watch a lot of games. But in high school, I played soccer. So in high school, I played basketball, which was my main sport. And I played soccer and football. So I like all three, and I enjoyed. I was a right midfielder, and so you play offense and defense. And I like soccer was a fun sport to play. Did you play soccer as a kid?
And I mean, when I was church ball, as they called it, kindergarten, first, second, third grade, and then I was out.
Look, you were a tennis guy. You're kind of a poofter, so that's okay.
I was not going to be a soccer player. I have a hard time getting excited about sports where no one wins a lot.
I understand. I will tell you, my high school team, we would slide tackle a ton. And I had one guy who was on my team who actually got 2 yellow cards, which you're not allowed to. You're supposed to get a red card and get thrown out. But the refs forgot. They gave him 2 yellow cards because our team was violent. We weren't that good, but we were violent. And he wore 2 yellow bracelets in sort of celebration of getting 2 yellow cards and not being thrown out of a game. And we had another guy, Mike, who was a buddy of mine, who was a defender, who would slide tackle with his cleats in the air, and he would rip like guys' shins and knees.
He went for the pain.
He became a Marine. He was a tough guy. But anyway... So, I like soccer playing as a kid, but I'm not a big fan. But I will say the game, what was amazing is, number one, the Spanish offense dominated. And they just, 80% of the game was played while the Spanish offense was on offense on the Argentinian side of the field and just score after score. And let me say, the Argentinian
how much of the audience could you tell was like Argentinian or was actually like Spain? Like, not Americans there picking a team, but like authentic, genuine fans of the country.
There were a bunch of both. I don't know that it felt in the stadium like one was more dominant than the other. There were a bunch of Spanish fans wearing Spanish colors, but there were a bunch of Argentinian fans. So it felt pretty even. But look, the Spanish, they were just taking shots on goal. And the Argentinian goalkeeper, that guy played an incredible game. I mean, the saves that he had, frankly, at the end of the regular period, it should have been 3-0 or 4-0 Spain. Like the number of shots on goal, and it was impressive. That goalkeeper almost single-handedly kept Argentina in the game. And I was really hoping, I wanted Spain to win, but I really wanted Messi to score a goal. And it's kind of like, all right, you're watching, I assume this is his last hurrah. And it was sort of like if you go see a game of Michael Jordan or Tom Brady at the end of their career, you want Jordan to win the game. You want Tom Brady to throw the great touchdown pass. By the way, I did see, so I've been to one Super Bowl game in my life. And it was the Super Bowl.
Well, I was saying, what was the game?
Houston. And it was New England versus Atlanta.
Oh,
and it was in my hometown. So I'm like, all right, let's go to that. And look, I frankly didn't care between New England and Atlanta. Neither of them, if it had been the Texans or even the Cowboys, I'd be rooting for them. But it was not a Texas team, so I was kind of indifferent. And I came in and I said, look, I don't care who wins, but I want a really good game. I want it close. I want it exciting. And it ended up being the first Super Bowl game in history that went to overtime. And if you remember, that was the overtime game where Tom Brady came back and won it. And it was really cool. Like Brady, I think, is unequivocally the GOAT. I used to think Montana was. And when Brady moved from New England to Tampa Bay, it was just the most studly move, and then he won again. It was like, all right, I've got an amazing team. I've got a fantastic, supporting cast. Let me go somewhere else and I'm going to win here. And it was just like, all right, that qualifies. So I was thrilled to watch Brady do that overtime drive down the field. And I have to admit, watching it, you're kind of like, yeah, they're going to win. Like you just, it reminded me of.
You could tell there was momentum, and it was,
right.
It was hard to see how they would lose the game.
So 20 years ago, I was very fortunate to go to the Rose Bowl game that was Texas versus USC, and it was the national championship. And Heidi and I went. And this is long before I was in the Senate. I was just, I was a lawyer, I was SG, and I went with a good buddy of mine who had tickets who invited me. And we went there. By the way, this is the only argument I've won in 25 years of marriage. So we're going there.
By the way, I believe this. I believe that this is the only one. I will stand by you. I think that's probably very accurate, but keep going.
So we're going there, and Heidi's a native Californian. She got a bunch of family down in Southern California. And she said, okay, we're going to wear USC red. And I said, sweetheart, I love you. But if you do that, I'm throwing you out of the truck. and Heidi just doesn't care about sports. It's not a thing that matters to her. And so she recognized that I did care. And so I dressed my darling California wife in burnt orange from head to toe. And we saw, I think, unquestionably one of the greatest college football games ever. I think it may be the greatest, where like Vince Young, the comeback, we're down 4 minutes and 15 seconds and we're down. And just like Brady, you knew that game, Vince Young was like a man among boys.
Yep.
And it was extraordinary. So that was, and Brady reminded me of that. Like the overtime, I had the same feeling where it's just like, Patriots are going to win. So I was hoping Messi would do that. Like I would have loved to have been the swan song, the end of an incredible career. Messi scored. I still wanted Spain to win, but I wanted Messi to score. He had one good shot on goal from the right side of the field, but it went, I think, high into the right, and he didn't get it. But it was an awesome time. Do you know the coolest part of the whole thing?
What was that?
So where we were sitting, 2 boxes over, there were a bunch of rap stars. Like Drake was there, and I don't even know, a bunch of rap stars that I've never heard of because rap's not my thing, so I don't know that world. But Katherine was just like agog. She likes rap. I don't like rap. It's not my thing. But she was like, oh, that's so-and-so, that's so-and-so. And she took a couple pictures, and she was so excited. And she's like, Dad, can we go over and see them? And I'm like, sweetheart, I can take you a lot of places.
They may not be my biggest fan.
I'm just like, there are places I've got a little bit of stroke. Like a box full of rap stars, that's just not my...
All this power is not a Republican convention.
This is not a place where Ted Cruz comes knocking on the door and they're like, yeah, we're thrilled to see you.
Come on in.
So, but Katherine was ecstatic. She left and said, all right, this was the coolest day of my life. And so
there you go. Okay, so you got Dad, you got core memories, and you got Dad points that'll last you maybe a day and a half. Maybe 2 days.
By the way, do you know who we met at the game?
Who?
Drew Barrymore.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. Yeah, Drew's amazing.
So it made me feel a little bad because Katherine didn't know who Drew Barrymore was, and I'm like, oh God, I feel old. Like you and I grew up with her. I mean, she was in E.T.
Yeah. Oh yeah.
Like she was, and I'd never met her. And look, she's a terrific actress, but to be honest, Republican politicians are not necessarily all that popular among Hollywood actors. She was the nicest person, and she was charming. We had a great conversation, and she was real and fun, and I really liked her.
That's the way. By the way, that's the way it should be. Like I meet, you and I, we're very blessed.
By the way, Drew is huggy, so like every person she met, she'd go and hug them. So like she hugged me, and I'm like, holy crap, Drew Barrymore's hugging me, and it wasn't fake. It was just kind of a real, she's an expressive, nice person. And we probably spent 20 minutes talking together. And it was really cool. All right, so I asked her.
I think, did I tell you, when I was in New York the other day, there was and I promised I would not use her name. Did I tell you who I met walking in and out of the hotel?
No.
Very, very famous actress, and she walked over and she said, "You do a great job on TV. I don't always agree with you, but you always make me laugh. Just don't tell anybody I told you that." And I promised I would. Same thing like with the Barrymore thing. So kind, shockingly nice. Spent multiple minutes having this conversation, and then it was like, by the way, don't out me or tell anybody that we like met in this way. And I was like, I understand. You got to keep your street cred in Hollywood. But same thing with Barrymore. It's nice when you meet somebody like that, and they're actually really, really kind.
Well, and I asked her, I said, all right, what's your favorite movie you did? And you know, and her response was interesting. She said E.T., and she was a little girl, but she was awesome in E.T.
Yeah.
And then she said Charlie's Angels. And I actually hoped Katherine, I'm actually bummed. Katherine didn't know Charlie's Angels. That was a good movie. That was well done.
It was a great movie.
And then Drew said all the Adam Sandler movies, and she mentioned 50 First Dates. And I told her, I said, look.
So good.
I said, I liked 50 First Dates. That was a sweet movie. It was touching. I have not met Adam Sandler. I've heard he's a conservative. I have friends who know him, so I'm like one connection away. But I just like Adam Sandler. He's funny. He's a good guy. And that movie, it's just look. All right, I'm gonna. This is gonna weaken my like bro creds. But I kind of like some rom-coms, and like 50 First Dates, it was a neat premise.
I like a rom-com.
But by the way, if you haven't watched 50 First Dates, it's about.
It's hysterical and cute.
It is hysterical and cute, and it's about someone who has like memory loss,
frontal lobe memory loss. So every day they forget what happened the day before,
and so you end up with Adam Sandler and Drew Barrymore having a first date every day, and like waking up not remembering their whole history, and it's a cute and fun show, and I was happy she said that was one of her favorite, because that's what I would say was my favorite of her movies.
So you went from that back to D.C., straight to the Oval Monday morning for a very interesting meeting on AI at the White House. Talk about that a little bit.
Yeah, so I took Amtrak and came from Manhattan down to D.C. on Monday, and then I had a meeting at the Oval Monday afternoon.
By the way, that is what we call welcome back to your real life, when you go from the World Cup Drew Barrymore to Amtrak to D.C. That's an interesting step down really quick, and that's probably God on purpose doing that, but keep going.
Oh, yeah. Look, it was... And so the meeting in the Oval, I was with the president, I was with Marsha Blackburn, senator from Tennessee, and I was with Scott Bessent, the Treasury Secretary, and Kevin Hassett, the head of the National Economic Council, and several other members of the White House staff. And we were talking about AI, artificial intelligence. And it was a discussion about what to do about it. And listen, Marsha has a package of bills that she's pitching. And it's a package of bills. It's kids' safety bills. It's requiring app stores to verify ages. It's a bill called No Fakes, which deals with preventing people from pirating and copying people's voices and images. And so she was pitching to the president, you should support my package of bills. And I'm chairman of the Senate Committee on Commerce, Science, and Transportation, which has jurisdiction over a ton of stuff, including AI. And so we're going to have a markup in the next couple of weeks on a bunch of AI bills. And Marsha wants her bill to be one of them. And so she laid it out. And I got to say, a lot of discussion, she's pushing the president, back my bill, back my bill, back my bill. And I stayed quiet for much of the meeting. The meeting was like hour and a half long. And then I said at the end, I said, listen, if Marsha introduces the bill, I'll mark it up. I'll put it up on the committee for a vote. And I said, I expect I'll support it. To be honest, I'd never read the bill until she handed it to me. So she handed me a 100-page bill, and I didn't know what was in it. But I said, look, from what she's described in it, I anticipate I'll support it. But I also said, and it was kind of near the end of the meeting, but I said, because they had handed the president a Truth Social post supporting the bill. And I said, look, someone needs to tell you this bill has very little, if any, chance of passing. And like Trump was surprised, and I just said, look, There are different elements of it. Right now, there are no Democrats backing this bill. It's not clear that every Republican on the committee will back the bill. Maybe they will. They might. And I said, let me be clear. I'll mark it up, and I expect to vote for it. So I'm not the opposition here, but I just want you to know that at this point, there's opposition from Democrats in the Senate. There's opposition potentially from some Republicans in the Senate. And there's strong opposition on aspects of the bill from Republican leadership in the House. And so I just said, I don't want you to be surprised. You lean in and say, let's go pass this bill. And then it doesn't pass. And so Trump said, all right, well, then I'm not going to support it. I don't want to support something that doesn't have a path to passage. And so we're going to mark up a series of bills. I've told Marcia if she wants me to mark up her bill, we will. I don't know if she will ask for it or not.
Can I ask a politics question on this one? How much of her bill is her pushing because she's running for governor and really trying to get Tennessee's hands on a lot of AI and AI infrastructure and AI in the state? Not blaming her for that, but like, is that part of this hardcore push where you're in the Senate, you're going, I understand both sides of this, or am I reading the room wrong?
So listen, there are different components of it. So let's take the different elements of the bill. The first bill is COSA, and COSA is a kids' safety bill. It's a good bill. I have supported it. I've voted for it. In the last Congress, it passed the Senate 93-3. So I'm all for COSA. I'm a yes. I want it to pass. Here's the problem. After it passed the Senate 93-3, it went to the House, and the House refused to take it up.
Why?
Because the Speaker of the House and Steve Scalise, the Majority Leader, opposed the bill. And the bill puts what's called a duty of care on the tech companies, that if there's content that harms kids, they can be sued. And the House leadership doesn't support that. And so, look, frankly, what I told Marcia a year and a half ago is I said, listen, I'll back COSA again. We can pass it again. I'm fine with that. But it will never become law until you sit down with Johnson and Scalise and work out an agreement. Because if they refuse to take up the bill, you want to pass it again? We can do it.
You'll get 100-0. It doesn't matter if they're not going to take it up.
If the House won't take it up, it's not going to become in the U.S. Code. And so I said, what you need to do is sit down and negotiate a compromise. And it won't be everything you want, but you need to find something the House is willing to pass. That hasn't happened, so that's a real impediment. I'm going to vote for COSA. I want COSA to pass, but right now the House is not going to take it up. There's a second component, which is called the App Store Accountability Act, which is putting liability on an app store for age verification. Now, there are a couple of problems with that. Number one, there are tech companies like Meta, like Facebook that support it. But Apple and Google hate it because they're the app stores. And they're like, wait, you're making me liable. So Apple and Google don't like it. And so they're both, the tech companies are divided. They're lobbying on both sides. And there's a competing bill that is called the Parents Over Platforms bill, which is frankly the Apple and Google bill. And there are several Republicans on the committee that support that bill. And so I said, look, this is just a pissing match between giant tech companies. Yeah. I'd like to see age verification. I support age verification. I'm pushing for it. But every Democrat opposes age verification. So I said, listen, it's a simple math. If you lose all the Democrats, and if you're losing some Republicans, I don't see how this passes. Like, it's just a math. Like I'm not opposed to it. I will vote yes. But how do you get to the votes to pass it? There is additionally her bill, No Fakes. Now, No Fakes, I'm on the Judiciary Committee. Judiciary Committee has already passed No Fakes. It was a voice vote. I was fine with it. No Fakes has a lot of good elements to it. So No Fakes is protecting, say, you have a musician and someone uses AI to create a fake song for a musician and makes you liable for that. In politics, by the way, this is coming. It hasn't really happened yet, but it's coming soon. You're going to see someone create AI and take a video of a politician, a fake video, and be like, we should eat live kittens. And it's going to be, you're not going to be able to tell that it's fake. Like it's going to appear to be the real politician.
A campaign that has to respond to a ridiculous, absurd video.
Right. And by the way, Amy Klobuchar last year had a video of a hearing where she said a bunch of things that were derogatory, that she would never have said, but it looked entirely real, and she had to respond to that. That's going to explode a lot. So finding some protections to say, look, someone can't use your name, image, and likeness and create a counterfeit that nobody knows is fake, I'm quite supportive of that. When the judiciary passed this bill, there were several Republicans, Mike Lee, Eric Schmidt, and myself, who raised free speech concerns because the way the language is written is quite broad. So, for example, Trump sent out the meme of Hakeem Jeffries and Chuck Schumer wearing sombreros singing.
Yes.
Now, that was parody. It wasn't real. And I've retweeted it and amplified it. But there is an argument that under the language of no fakes, that could be banned. Now, there is some language saying bona fide satire is okay, but there's a lot of gray area. You think of Spencer Pratt and the hysterical ads he put out with Gavin Newsom and Karen Bass just like doing horrible things to people of California. I have a concern that under the language of no fakes, the tech platforms would take down those ads because they'd say, you're using Gavin Newsom's image in a way that he has not approved. And so my point was, look, I'd love to see this get done, but I also want to protect free speech. So my point to the president was, hey, if you want to endorse this, great. I've got no problem with it. But you need to know that I don't see a path that this actually gets to pass in the Senate, take 60 votes. Given that I don't know of a single Democrat supporting this bill, and there may be Republicans opposing this bill, the math doesn't work. And so the president decided not to support it. Listen, I still expect that we will take up in the next couple of weeks a series of AI bills. And by the way, we will do a podcast when we do that markup where we talk about the AI bills we pass. But what I'm trying to do right now is find, all right, let me use a Kamala Harris phrase, the Venn diagram. That is the intersection of what bills could make a positive impact protecting people from some of the harms of AI.
Yep.
But at the same time that have a real path to passage. And so we'll move several bills on that, but I'm trying to find exactly the right intersection right there. And so we had that conversation, and the president agreed with me.
It's going to be very interesting to see. AI is changing the world. We've talked about it a lot here. We'll keep talking about it. Don't forget, we do the show Monday, Wednesday, Friday. Hit that subscribe or auto-download button. I love that you got to go to the World Cup, and I love you got to have those memories with your daughter. What a fun time for you guys, and I'm glad you're back in D.C. Getting to fight with the commies there. And we will see you guys back here in a couple of days.